Awesome. So yeah, I myself JP. It's a short form for Jayaprakash. Currently live in New Jersey. I work for a technology company in New York, more so in a product owner role. I have spent significant amount of my career in the IT services space, meaning I've led and managed projects for various different customers across the globe. My forte used to be analytics. Apparently, I did that for so long that I got bored, and I wanted to check out other career options.
Yep.
Uh, I did have a slight stint during my um, extensive career in consulting. I did do a bit of pre-sales, account management, and all that fancy stuff.
Nice.
Apparently, nothing really caught my fancy actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of narrowed down my career path to getting into product management. So I moved from IT consulting or services to product. So I'm with this technology company as more of a product owner. So since I had extensive background in ERP. I was hired as an integration product owner. So we have a platform, a big data platform, purely catering to asset management
Okay.
industry. So there's a lot of integration stuff that we have to do with different
Yeah.
data providers.
A lot about that actually. So
So
that's good. No, I like that. I love that. Thank you. And then you said you're from New Jersey, right? Or
I
you
live in New Jersey. Yes,
live in
I'm
New Jersey.
originally from India, but been living in New Jersey for about 13 years now.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, I actually grew up in New Jersey.
Oh wow,
I grew up in Morristown, or actually, I was born in Morristown.
I see.
Lived a little bit in, the Bernardsville
I see.
area, and then I actually worked at Johnson and Johnson, which is in
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater and also New Brunswick. So
So Johnson and Johnson Bridgewater is about 20 minutes from where I live now.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I long ago I actually did an ERP project for them
With
uh,
J&J.
in the J&J in the
Yeah,
Bridgewater. Yep.
nice,
Yep.
awesome. Well,
Good to know. Good to know.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Well,
So yeah,
thank you for sharing.
I'll go on mute now.
Yeah, yeah, you can go on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to you, Drew, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm Dhruv. So I'm also from New Jersey. Um,
Nice.
unlike Jay Prakash, I don't have that much experience. I actually just graduated college. So I'm graduated Purdue as of today, technically.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then so I'm gonna be joining Red Hat with their consulting department in Austin.
Okay.
So I'm just really involved in tech. I love tech. I'm reading about tech and trying to get involved in tech as any way as I can.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a startup or side project, as you can say, with a couple of other people. And so I think product manager is kind of the path that I want to take. At least I think consulting is a good path to get me to like where I want to go in product.
Yeah. Cool.
So
I
that's
love
kind
it.
of a quick introduction about me.
That's good, and I love it. I appreciate that. And yeah, the side projects or the side hustles or whatever you want to call it, I think a great thing to do, right? Because it kind of helps you to experiment a little bit,
Yeah.
in things that you can then apply in your career. And if who knows, right? The side hustle turns out to be good, you have another
You
path.
never know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Why don't we go to you, Joy, if you don't mind?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Joy. I currently live in Seattle, but it was because working from home, I usually live in the Boston area and work for an education company in that area. And I was a data analyst before I transitioned into product management. I'm currently an associate product manager on a learning software for about 6 months. Still navigating through this new career path.
Yeah.
So the reason I joined this session is I would like some advice on how can I maybe transition again within this career path to something I'm more interested in, because now I'm working on some backend stuff on B2B software, but I I think I'm more interested in B2C, more user-facing stuff. And also the domain knowledge required for my current job is pretty intense. And I'm very sure that it's not an area I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So the focus question I submitted in the form is how to balance learning the domain knowledge with developing product management skills that can be transferred to maybe my next job.
Yeah, I love it. And being able to, you know, have that focus is really important. I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, understanding your values. How do you find opportunities that align with your values, right? Because I think that's super, super important, because you find that you become more fulfilled in what you're doing and you love what you do. You know, that's what we all aspire to end up doing. So perfect. Thank you. Why don't we go to next? He, she, he.
It sounds Xingyi. So
Yes.
hi everyone, I'm Xingyi and I'm from Taiwan and currently based in Taiwan as well. And so my biggest goal or passion in life is to bring use human-centered approach to bring smooth experiences for people. So like the striped shirt I have, the pattern I have. So I have 2 years of experience in digital marketing as a project manager role, but like the small stripes I have. So I'm starting to transition myself into some of the UX or product manager roles in my side projects.
Okay.
So I want to join this session to explore the PM career and getting advice from professionals like Rich and on how to transition myself and learn more about your experiences and some of the best practices.
Sure. Perfect. I love it. And from Taiwan, I've never been to Taiwan, but I have visited Asia. My wife, she's actually from Thailand. So I've visited Thailand a couple of times. I've actually also been to South Korea. Yes, I'm a huge soccer fan. I actually played soccer. I'll talk a little bit about that when I introduce myself, but I actually got the chance to go to the World Cup, which was in 2002 in South Korea, Japan, to watch, obviously, not to play, unfortunately, but to watch, which was awesome. So thank you for sharing. Next, let's go to, is it Kritika?
Yep, Kritika.
Hi, Kritika.
Hi everyone. So I am in LA and I have a background mostly in marketing, but I actually did a coding boot camp. And so I have like software engineering experience now, but through the coding boot camp, basically I realized that I was really interested actually in the PM role.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where my interest is now, and I'm trying to figure out how to transition into my first PM role.
Got it. Awesome. And do you mind me asking what kind of boot camp it was? Was it a General Assembly? Was it a?
It was Codesmith, so it's in LA and New York.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm based in LA, so you know, I've never done any boot camps myself, but you know, over the years, I've definitely appreciated the idea that, you know, learning really fast, getting that hands-on experience is the best way, right? So we'll talk about an opportunity after this about how I've been trying to mentor a lot of other, you know, aspiring PMs and getting them that PM boot camp experience through the opportunity of, you know, just giving you a project and you being like a product manager and running with it and launching it. All right, I'll talk a little bit about that at the end too. Cool. All right, and I think we have one more, and that is Theodora.
Yes, hi, Theodora. Hi, everybody. I am currently in the Bay Area. I'm somewhat a recent graduate. I graduated last year from college, and I have about 1 year of full-time work experience, except it was not exactly in the role that I really want to be in long term. I have a project management and operations experience, and my college is actually in computer science, and during my undergrad I took human computer interaction class, and I really like the whole UX UI design aspect of it. So I'm looking for ways to have all of my knowledge and just kind of transfer into that role. And I hope to get, I guess, a good grip of how to like showcase transferable skills and maybe get more skills like right now while I have a lot of time on my hands
Yes.
to
A
actually
lot of good
like
time. Yeah.
jump into like a product manager role.
Yes. Yes. That's good.
And a little side note, I also want to actually move physically to LA. So we're
okay.
really, that you guys are both there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see your Frozen poster back there. That's awesome. I mean, my wife and I, so I worked at Disney. My wife actually also works at Disney, and we got a chance to always go and see some of the premieres. We didn't see the Frozen premiere, but we actually did get a chance to see the Marvel Endgame premiere. We were actually on the red carpet.
Amazing. I
and
love
watched,
Marvel too.
yeah. So I love that you're a Disney fan. That's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, why don't we get started? And I want to start with just a little bit about myself as well, because you guys obviously did introductions. I want to introduce, my background, how I came into product management, and really use my story as a way to hopefully answer some of the questions you guys have, right? Because I think a lot of you, in a way, I've been in your shoes, right? Some of you are, you have a career, you chose something and you wanted to find something else and you're struggling, or you have that aspirations. How do you get there, right? So I'll talk a little bit about that. But if you don't mind, just everyone being on mute, and then if you guys have anything specifically, just if you can write it in the chat if you have a question or something, that way I can know to pause and then address your question. Okay. So yeah, why don't I get started? So I always like to share a story about myself, in that I actually, when I was young, really young, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. That was my dream. And I talk a little bit about that from my, World Cup story there, but I wanted to actually play professionally. My dad was a really good soccer player. My uncles were all also really good. They played professionally. And, I was like bred to be a professional soccer player, and I got really good. In high school, I made the varsity team at, I think, only 14 years old. So I was on this track, right? And when I got to high school, I guess what happened was, when I was playing with all these older people, I lost that sense of confidence, right? I kind of had this imposter syndrome that I didn't know if I really could do this anymore, right? Like, here I am, right? I've put in so many hours of practice. I've definitely earned my way there, but I didn't know if I could actually do it. And I ended up letting go of that dream because of that mindset, that poor, weak mindset that I had, which I kind of attributed to a couple of things, right? I mean, growing up, I also had dyslexia. So for those of you who don't know, it's like it's something where you can't really you struggle with reading and writing and with communicating, right? Because the way you think is different, and so that level of confidence kind of from the very beginning was reduced because of that. But with soccer, it was like I could be free, And the reason why I tell this story is because, I ultimately I let that dream go, right? And when I got to college, I told myself I wanted to change. I wanted to, make a decision that I wasn't going to let any dream ever escape me again. And, I think about product management the same way that maybe some of you guys, you have this aspiration, you have this dream, you want to work in the tech company, or you want to be a PM, or, you have something you want to achieve. And, sometimes you're not getting it. You might have this imposter syndrome, or your mindset is telling you can't do it, right? What I want to tell you is that, what I would have loved to have back then was, the confidence and the mentorship from someone to be able to guide me through it, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with you guys. I ultimately decided to, when I was in college, to study computer engineering, and primarily because, yeah, I mean, aside from soccer, I also really loved just breaking apart, pieces of electronics. And I also actually was really into art, right? So I didn't really know about product management at all when I was in college, but I figured the technology piece, I figured I'd do computer engineering. So I studied computer engineering. I, discovered this world of IT, and there was a lot of internship opportunities. So I did those. And so out of college, I got a job at Johnson and Johnson, right? And I chose Johnson and Johnson specifically because, for me, health and wellness is always something of value that I have, right? And, in college, I did do this kind of 360 reflection of myself about like who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I did a lot of discovery, if you will. And one of those discoveries was the values, right? And so it was a great company, and I was doing IT, but I didn't really love it. Like, I think, some of you were saying, like, you're not really, there's not this love that you want to go to work and do something. But there was this one group in Johnson and Johnson that they were essentially a little creative agency, right? And they were building apps and websites, and they were essentially the team that was responsible for the consumer brand products, like Band-Aid or Listerine or the other products that you would probably go to and experience. And I just fell in love with that team and what they were doing. And so I found myself going to the creative lab, and I found myself trying to find ways that I could do little projects on the side so that I could just, get to know the team and hopefully get a job with them. And I never got a job as on that team. But what that taught me was that, having and working on a side project like that gives you and builds you a set of experience or a set of stories that you can talk about when you are trying to get another job, right? So, I ultimately decided that I wanted to leave J&J and work at a digital agency and primarily go into product management, right? It was super hard. I kid you not, because of that IT background. Everyone saw the IT. They're like, you work in databases, you work in servers, I don't think you'd be good at product management. But what I ended up doing was, after the rejections and everything, I took some time to reflect, and I asked myself, how do I really showcase that I can do this? Like, I need this, the way that I was going at it was just not working, right? Submitting my resume and trying to connect with people, it just wasn't working. So I ended up doing I created a little bit of a story, right? So I took an inventory of myself and, created a story inventory of just things from my technology background, things from my design background, and just kind of, crafted a good story that I could use to help people understand that I was a good fit, right? And I'm going to pause there because I'm going to show something actually as a way to help you see exactly what I did, and also give you some resources for you guys who are also trying to figure yourself out, right? How do you stand out, right? So let me share my screen and keep going. And I definitely do want to leave some time for questions, and you guys feel free to, as you're hearing stuff, remember, just feel free to just put it in the chat. But ultimately, I want to share a few things. Like I said at the beginning, before you even try to get a job at, a PM role or any new role, really, I feel like the first big step you have to do is this self-discovery phase, right? Really, really just, think and take the time to go inside and figure out what it is that you want to do, right? So I always talk about these types of things, that you have to embrace your past, you have to assess your present, and you have to write your future, right? How do you embrace your past? Well, this kind of goes into what I did actually with getting into the first product manager role. I had this, in a way, a story inventory of just various moments in my life that I wanted to either talk about. It didn't have to be in that exact interview, but just a way for me to reflect on the things that I've achieved or overcome, or, you know, just anything really, your failures. Uh, because what you'll learn as you become, you know, more involved in product management is that product management is just about being a connector, and it's about serving people. And when you can connect people with your story into other with other people's stories, you establish a somewhat of a bond, right? A relationship, if you will. And the more stories that you know off the top of your head, the better you become at this skill, really, right? So, you know, this is an exercise that I recommend you guys do, is, you know, take some time, reflect a little bit, and embrace your past on some of these moments in your past that you can talk about, you know. And it can be, you know, career oriented, it can be life oriented. You know, as you probably noted from the introduction, I try to connect one piece of myself to your self as well, right? When you share something about yourself, and that was strategic. I wanted to establish a relationship. And product management, that's what it's all about. It's about relationships. It's about how do you connect with different people, right? You have developers and they think a different way. You have designers and they think a different way, right? And so being able to pull in from your own past and your own stories is a great way to do that. Okay. So that's one, you know, one tactic that I did, and actually it worked, right? For me, it absolutely works. The second tactic is, again, assessing yourself. You know, it's so funny. You know, I interview a lot of people. When I was at Disney, I interviewed a lot of candidates. Right now, actually, at the ed tech startup that I'm at, and, you know, it's funny. I ask a simple question of just, you know, what are your skills, what are your strengths, and all these things, and sometimes people, your weaknesses, your things like that, and sometimes people, like, they can't answer very well, right? And for me, that shows that you don't really know yourself well. And I think in order to really help other people, you need to first help yourself, know yourself. And so what I love to do is I love to take assessments. And some of these are some of my favorites, to just really know, you know, again, your values, right? What are the things that are you afraid of? How do you determine your fear archetype, and how do you potentially, you know, work towards improving that? You know, what gets you in a flow state, right? A lot of these assessments, which, you know, are, I think for the most part, they're all free, but it's just a great way to know yourself better. So that way, when you know, when you meet other people, you feel a little bit more confident, right? You know who you are, right? So that's the assessing yourself. And then probably the most, I think for me, that has been the most transformational is writing your future. And this is sometimes a little hard to grasp, I know, because again, going back to the mindset, you know, our minds give us these limiting beliefs that say, oh, that'll never happen. Oh, you'll never do that, right? But imagine yourselves kind of painting the picture, or writing the story of who you will be in the future, and take the time to think about what is it that you want, what is it that you truly want. And by doing this, you'll actually start to develop, you know, plans. You'll start to make decisions that are more aligned to where you want to be in the future. And so this is a nice little template, you know, you can use as well. I love to think about, you know, life and goals in terms of the different categories, right? So one of the things you'll hear from me is that, you know, I don't just talk about career product management, but I talk about, you know, just personal development a lot too, because, you know, if you're able to have good relationships in your family, or, you know, have good fitness or good health, that will just all translate over into product management. Right? For me, I think that's probably one of the best and the most beneficial, is that I've established this clarity in all these other areas. And now as a PM, I have a lot of clarity in what I do and what I believe, and in how I communicate, right? So taking the time to even just do this for the different areas of your life is also really, really impactful, right? And this is actually one of the things I do as part of my morning routine. I review this document. I review my like vision summary. I like to think of this as like, you know, in 10 years when my Wikipedia is being written, like, what would you want it to say? What would you want it to have there? And this is, for me, what I would love it for it to see in the summary, right? So taking the time to do this, it will allow you to, again, figure out why you want to do certain things, right? Why are you making these decisions? And then also start to think about the action plan on how to get there. Okay. So again, those are really the first phase, I think, and just like getting into either product management or just jumping into a new opportunity. It's just taking the time to do this, right? Also building really good habits. You know, I'm a huge believer of morning routines, bedtime, like, you know, right before you go to sleep routines. You develop better habits, and those habits will then translate over into career as well, right? You know, I've developed a really good habit of just tracking, you know, and setting goals. And in product management, right? I mean, being able to set goals and be able to, you know, articulate those goals to people is a good habit, because that helps. Like, it's like the score, right? If no one's keeping score, how do you know if you're winning, right? How do you know if there's success or not? And so being able to know and have that innate just desire to have set goals and KPIs and all that stuff. And I'll talk a little bit about what those are for me, but just developing those habits is also really good practice. And then when it comes to product management, you know, you can develop good habits as well, by doing, I mean, one thing that I love to do as part of my morning routine is I love to feed my product mind, with just more products, right? I think that, you know, product managers should be just very appreciative, and should always be looking at product in a different way than everyone else, right? The same way like a designer would look at lots of different, you know, designs, and they'll love to look at mood boards. You know, product managers, in my mind, are those that should be looking at products, and always be asking the question of, you know, who is this for? Is this useful? Would I use this, right? And kind of putting that that PM hat on. And so one of the things I do is I go on product hunt, and I'll occasionally just kind of scroll through, see what are some of the top products, and just learn a little bit about what they are, ask the question, maybe even use it. I usually see my phone, it's filled with just apps that I've just tried, just because I want to experience as much product, or as much, you know, product, really, product experience as possible, right? It's kind of like the athlete, right? How do you become a great athlete? Well, you practice, you put in the time, you take all those, you know, shots or whatever. How do you become a great product manager? You launch a lot of products, you look at a lot of products, you understand these products and then why they're created and what their purpose is. And so having a deeper appreciation for it is going to help you a lot, right? And then one last thing on just appreciation and this kind of self-discovery. You know, another great resource I'd like to look at is page flows, which is a great way to just see, you know, again, how other people are approaching problems, right? Because product management is really just, you know, you think about it, what you're doing is, you know, you're serving, you're connecting, but you're doing it for the purpose of addressing certain problems or needs. And, you know, by looking at other products, you can kind of see how are they addressing it, right? How can you potentially use some of that, and kind of address it for your own needs as well, and wherever you are, right? So this is page flows. You can kind of see, you know, some of the really good popular products like Strava and things like that. And you can actually see like, what is their onboarding process? What is their upgrading process? How do they invite people? You know, designers will usually look at this, but I think it's also really cool for product people to look at. So that way, again, you start developing this, if you will, almost like a library in your mind of things you can pull from and you can refer to help you explain to designers or to explain and show your developers what it is that you're trying to create, right? So that's self-discovery and just building yourself up in terms of your mind for, for life, but also a little bit for product management. And all the resources, I will send links to it so you can take a look at it. Cool. Another big thing that I like to talk about, so once you've figured yourself out and you have this idea of who you want to be, getting in the door, obviously a lot of you are trying to do that. And how do you stand out? So, and I mentioned for me, when I was getting into Lightmaker, the digital agency, I used some of my storytelling abilities, right? My story inventory. I also, something I didn't share yet is that I created a little product audit. And that product audit is in a way to showcase your skills or your expertise in something, right? So let's say you're trying to get a job at, I don't know, Apple or something, or Facebook, right? They have tons of products, right? It could be a good idea to potentially, understand the product, understand, maybe what are the pain points, what are, being able to ask users, what they love about it, what they don't like about it, right? Almost imagine yourself as the product manager today, already at the job or in the role, and do those things so that you can show the recruiter, you can show people that you know how to do the task, right? And so this product audit, it's a simple thing. I mean, it uses different links that I like to refer to. This is one that I did for my friend. He has a charity, and it was a great way for me just to give value, right? I actually did it for the sole purpose of, connecting with my friend a little bit better, right? So I decided to use a little bit of my product skills and what I know about product management to just do a simple assessment of their product, and see where are there opportunities for improvement, and recommending what I would do if I were, a PM, or if I were to work with their digital team, right? It's a nice little tactic that I don't see too many people do. I mean, I see people starting to develop PM portfolios, right? Which I think if you're not doing, I think it's a great way to kind of stand out. And what that portfolio can really consist of is just, it should be just a way to showcase how you work, right? Because in a conversation, especially in an interview, yes, they're going to ask you questions and they're going to put you on the spot and they're going to ask you how to do stuff. But if you can actually refer to examples and you can show examples of how you've done something, on a project, or on a, on some sort of actual product, people will be able to associate a bit better and understand that you know what you're doing, right? I find that a lot of people just, they talk and they talk and they never really help me understand really what it is that they've done. But being able to showcase it visually, it's kind of hard to miss that, right? And then, so another story, when I tried to get into Disney, one of the things that so I was at Lightmaker for about a year, and, I was in Florida. I kept my resume up to date. I'm sorry, not my resume, my LinkedIn up to date. And, a recruiter from Disney actually ended up reaching out to me, because I had actually, originally I wanted to work for Disney, and I couldn't get that, but I ended up getting, again, the role as a product manager at a digital agency. But I had an idea of the job description and what they were looking for. And so, one of the things that I've done and I recommend is just look at the job description and understand, what is it that they're looking for, right? Specifically, what skills or what characteristics, and just compare it to your own resume. And the reason why people don't get anything is because their resume doesn't relate or associate or show any comparison to the job description, right? Like when I was trying to get into product management, at first I was just using my regular IT resume, right? Like I showed that I did these things, and it just obviously nothing was gonna work, because how do you show that you worked on servers and translate that to product management? So I changed it, I altered it, right? I used the same type of words. I used this website here, JobScan, to give me a score, an assessment of, the job description that I'm trying to work at or work for, and put my resume to see how it is it relates. What's the score? How relevant would I actually be to that? And if there wasn't something that was on the resume that the job description had, I learned it. And I also I tried to do a project, right? Whether if it was, at the company or not, I tried to find a way to do a project where I was actually implementing it or using it so that I could speak to it, right? And then I would put it on my resume. It's sad to say this, but unless the job market filtering process changes, this is usually how it works, right? Where you get your resume, it gets reviewed. There's a system that is looking at these keywords and how relevant you are. And if you match it, then you go through to potentially another review with someone. If you don't, it automatically, you're out, right? So being able to just get through that first gate is key by just doing a simple comparison, really, of your resume and the job. And so sorry, I forgot to mention. So yeah, I had done this a little bit with my LinkedIn profile. I was actually reached out by Disney from a recruiter, and to kind of sum up what I had shared before, I had developed my story inventory. I had this this story of connecting with Disney and using my background and also my past. I was able to connect with the recruiters so well that the recruiter then became my champion, right? In that, the first opportunity that I tried with Disney, it fell through. I got rejected. Second opportunity came around. The recruiter was reaching out to me again because of how well I connected with her, right? And that's where, again, connection based off of your story, connection based off of your connection, your how you relate to the company is so important, right? Because that shows that that they want you to be there because you'd give a lot of value. So the recruiter, ends up trying again with me on the second try, and I don't get that second one, but on the third one, I end up getting it. And again, because the recruiter stuck with me, right? So it just goes to show you the power of, number one, making sure your resume and your LinkedIn is up to date and matching to to the job description that you want to be at. And number two, being able to utilize your story and your connections to make a really lasting impression on the people you're connecting with, right? And I think that's one of the things I want to share as well, is this whole idea of networking, right? Because, especially when you're trying to get in the door, it's really hard to just apply and get in, right? I actually recommend to a lot of people, go for the referral, not the application, right? Because if you can at least get to connect with someone who's in the company or is a recruiter or something, your chances are a lot higher, number one. But also you are able to establish connections with another person who can be, like I said, that champion. And so a great way to do this could actually be a nice little strategy could be to, identify someone maybe in your own network that is already has another person in their network that works with, someone there, and offer to give something of value to that individual, right? Maybe even do a product audit or suggest something, and that way the person who you're connecting with has something that they will gladly refer you to and talk about, right? Come out of it as you're coming from a place of service or a place of gratitude, right? As opposed to you just trying to yes, okay, I'll share that. Yeah, coming out of a place of gratitude, right? And by that I mean, one of the things I've done and it has worked a lot is, being very appreciative and being very thankful, right? I approached one of the entrepreneurs I really look up to, and I I offered him something of value. I wanted to help him out because I said, hey, you've given me so much, knowledge, and I read your articles, and I wanted to give something to you. I actually identified an opportunity where his Wikipedia was not up to date. And, I offered to help him with it. I said, hey, I can help you with it. I didn't know how to do anything with Wikipedia, but I offered, and he said, oh, that'd be great. Right. And I quickly realized that I needed to learn, or I needed to find someone who knew how to do it. And that's what I ended up doing. I found someone who could help me with it. They ended up, fixing it. And I established out of that a relationship with that person, with that entrepreneur, to the point where now we know each other. And it all came out of a place of gratitude and giving and wanting to serve. Right. So sometimes you got to be a little strategic in how you network and how you meet people, because, I truly believe that for me, my success has come out of the social capital, right? All the people that I know, and the mental capital that I've gained, right? Mental meaning, the education and also your mindset that you've developed. And specifically with social capital, one of the things I always tell people is that it's great to have 3 different groups of people in your friend circle, right? So number one, having seeker friends, which are people who look up to you because they're seeking information, right? And you become kind of like an authoritative figure, or some sort of knowledgeable person that you can then share your wisdom. You can consider like a mentor. You can be, giving guidance, right? This could be people who are just starting off, right? But that helps you to reinforce what you know. So that's a good group of friends to have. Another group of friends to have are achievers. And achievers are people that you're basically at the same level, or maybe they're up a little bit on you, and you're constantly kind of, one-upping each other. And these people are great to have because they're just going to keep pulling you up, right? More people like that is great. And the third category of friends you want to really have are these masters, right? These are people who've spent the hours and have achieved the success and are literally there or have exceeded it. And if you're able to tap into their minds, if you're able to, connect with them, you can, accelerate your process, right? And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of these people in my life because I've reached out to them, I've connected with them, I've given them some value, and they've, in a way, accelerated my process, right? I'm learning constantly from them, and they're also introducing me to other people in their circle, right? The higher you go, the higher the circle of friends becomes, the more opportunity there is, right? So the power of just your social capital, I can't force it and reinforce it enough. Really, really important that you work on, right? For getting in the door. Cool. Okay, so let me go to I think there was one about let's see, can you share some more detail about the connection you established with the Disney recruiter? Did my explanation help a little bit, or was that, JP, if you're there?
Yes, it did. Your explanation did, but again, I was like trying to get a little bit more specificity around the how. You know what I mean? So basically, it's amazing that the recruiter kept in touch with you
Yeah,
and came back to you for opportunities over and over again. So
yeah.
that's like very, very powerful, right? I mean, which means you definitely did something right. and
Yeah,
that
and that's it again. It comes down to for me, my belief, and actually I could probably ask her. I didn't ask her this, but I still have a good relationship with that recruiter. But my belief was that, in those first 20 minutes that I had talked to her, again, I shared about me and my past and how it connected to the Disney brand, and that is so powerful when you can actually use your own story and how it aligns with the company values and the company, because that shows the recruiter that, you believe in the mission, you believe in what they're doing, as opposed to just someone who, is coming across as you're just one stop in my journey, right? And for me, that was really, I think, really impactful. But I also, you know, I demonstrated in obviously through my resume or through my LinkedIn that I was very qualified. I had the qualifications, I had the keywords, and that's what they were looking for, right? If you looked at all Disney project or product manager roles, for the most part, all of those keywords I had on my resume or on my LinkedIn, right? So it was like they're gonna they're gonna go to me, right? Because I had something that they were looking for.
Understood. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, next is jump starting. So this is like once you've gotten the job and you're good, you're in. You know, how do you stand out? How do you accelerate? How do you potentially, you know, move to something, you know, that's more value, right? I always love to start with a 30, 60, 90-day plan, which is just for me a great way to get myself focused on what I want to achieve or what I aspire to achieve in the first 30, 60, 90 days. And I talk about these 4 Ps a lot, you know, people, priorities, process, and product, because I truly believe that when you understand those Ps really well, you come across as very, very knowledgeable, right? So for example, what do I mean by that? Well, learning the people, right? That's really important. Being able to know the team and being able to establish relationships, like actual relationships with people early and often is very, very important, right? I think one of the things that you can do really well is establish, you know, credibility, trust, and respect, right? Especially with developers or designers. And for me, what's worked is just being able to appreciate what they're doing. And also just, you know, if I find something, I actually have a feed of the different categories of like development, design. I'm constantly learning each of those different areas. And if I see something new, I actually share it with those people, right? It's like, hey, I found something that maybe you might like, right? And that shows to the other teammates or team that I care about what they love, right? If it's design, then I show something that I loved about design. We establish that connection again, right? And that kind of gives, again, that you build that trust, you build that credibility and that respect. Another thing is, you know, understanding and learning about the people in terms of the market, the customers, right? So if you haven't done any user surveys or been able to get some actual testimonials with your actual users, highly recommend doing that. And actually, this is something you could do if you're not in the job right now or you're trying to get in. This could be another really interesting tactic where, you know, you approach you identify users of that product that you're trying to potentially be a PM for and get their insights, right? Understand what is the pain points, right? What are they struggling with? Just imagine yourself as the PM, right? And this is what PMs do, right? We get data about our users, we try to serve them, and that helps us in building our roadmap, our strategy, all that stuff, right? You know, learning about the partner, that's important too. Okay, the product. Okay, so with product, it's the same thing, right? If you did a product audit, you probably done that basis. If you haven't, then being able to, you know, assess the current product, the technology stack, what's powering it. You know, I love to use the tool Built With, which it gives you a nice view of, at least for web, I think maybe app as well, but it gives you a nice view of like how that product is what is powering that thing, right? So you can see here, if I do hulu.com, it actually shows me all of the analytics tools that it's using. It shows me, let me go to the detailed view. You know, it gives me an insight into the analytics. It gives me an insight into all of the various you know, tools and technologies that it's using. And if you don't know it, if you don't know one of those things, you know, go out and learn a little bit about it, right? Or go ask your developers or, you know, the people who are using it, so that way you kind of, you know, at least understand it, right? I think one of the things is that as you're working PMs have to do a great job of knowing enough to be able to translate, right? And kind of help where they can. If you're more of a technical PM, you're probably going to be very focused on a specific technology, right? But if you're like a general PM, you want to go into B2C, being really well versed into some of these things or just being able to know them is good, right? And if you don't know it, I mean, this tool, you can actually, click into these different things, and you can actually see other people who use it, and get a little bit more stats about it. So it's a nice way of piquing your curiosity as you're learning about the product and what it's how it's being used or its purpose. So the question here, is there a clear line between professional relationships and personal relationships, and how do you manage the boundary? Is there a clear line? I mean, I always find that, it is very good to establish just personal relationships, meaning that you're getting to know about the person on a more personal level, right? Like getting to know a little bit maybe about their family or their pets, right? I'm not expecting you guys to always go on like dates or meet people's families, but in a way, being curious and just being, in a way, I mean, actually, I in my experience, I have found that being able to know, even just like what types of dogs people have or the places that they visited, and being very curious, and it helps to establish a good relationship with that person, right? And then professionally, I mean, the professional world is just a reflection of your personal, way of thinking in my mind. So I don't know. I mean, I think the line is really just, I mean, I don't really share my social media to many people. I mean, it's public, you can go find it, but I do talk about things about where I've been and things like that. And that's kind of where I draw the line. Okay. Oh yes. Okay. This is another really interesting one that I want you guys to know and learn, which is jobs to be done. Maybe you guys have heard of it, maybe you haven't. Jobs to be done is this theory. It's this kind of this framework of approaching product management and the initial strategy part of product management, where you essentially think of your product as it's being hired to do a job, right? So there's this expression, I think it was coined up by someone from Harvard Business School. I can't remember, or not Harvard Business School, or maybe it was. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the idea that, people, they hire our products to do a job. So meaning, people don't want a 1/4 inch drill. They want a 1/4 inch hole, right? They want the hole. They don't want the drill. They just, they want whatever can give them that job of getting that thing done. It just so happens that people created a drill to do that job, right? And so with product, it's very similar, right? And so Thrive is a company we worked with at Disney and also where I'm at right now. And they actually offer a lot of material and explanation about jobs to be done. And it's a great resource to learn and understand, again, the strategy part of product management, right? Which if I pull up my little diagram here, as far as the process goes, PMs are those people who have experience in actually going through the whole product development lifecycle, the process, right? At a high level, it's basically, this, which once it loads, you'll see, right? You have your, beginning from like the business development or sales and the strategy, UX, user testing, development, design and development, testing and launching, right? And the more you go through this, the better you become. But when you think about the actual beginning stages, this stage is usually the stage where, you can experiment, you can find out, and you can invest, and pivot really quickly, because the moment you start development, that is where the bulk of the effort is, the bulk of the money is, and you don't want to, or at least you want to minimize the the need to transition or to get off course, right? Jobs to be done is a great way of actually ensuring that you're always going to find a winning strategy, a winning way of approaching your problem, right? Okay, a question here. Is this from the Christian Institute? I believe, well, I know Clay Christensen, I think he helped coin this term or helped develop it. As you can see here, Clay Christensen. I'm not sure if it's from the actual institute itself, but it is, again, a methodology, it's an approach that I have absolutely loved just because of the way that they approach it, right? And one of the things I love about it is that, and actually you can get access to the courses, which is free for 30 days. So if you have some time and you want to consume something, you can create an account here. And then once you're in, you can go to the course material and you can learn a little bit about the, oops, let me go back here. About the different areas. So you can see here, you can learn about customers, markets, market size, needs, all of this stuff, right? Again, this is all part of the initial strategy and the business development sometimes, and road mapping, that it comes to be really important. Oh, it looks like we have someone trying to join us. I did not see that.
So that is me. I'm just joining.
Oh, okay.
Because I need to go to the kitchen, but I don't want to miss anything.
No worries. Awesome. All right. Okay, yeah, so that's Jobs to be Done. Again, great resource. Oh, did we get a question? No? Okay. Okay, so Jobs to be Done, and something you guys should take a look into as well. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here into the next kind of sections, and then we'll, again, go into Q&A if you have anything specific. So I talked about the product, the people, priorities, process, prioritization. I'll talk about a little bit about that just so you guys have it as well. You know, priorities and how do you define priorities? It's always a big question, and how do you do it? You know, one of the things that I like to use is the like kind of like a calculation. You know, this is I think a pretty common calculation of prioritization of using rice, which is not the actual food rice, but it's the, you know, it's just a way of remembering the different things. So you prioritize based off of reach, effort, impact, and the confidence that you have in being able to deliver or execute. And by doing this kind of calculation, you can kind of see, okay, you know, what do we start with, right? How do you start? What do you start with first? And usually if you maybe put a calculation to it, you can figure out exactly what to actually start, right? And so it's something, again, just a resource you can use to help you prioritize. Okay, let's see, we have leave an impact. I talk about this as well because this is for folks who, you know, they've been at the company or they want to, you know, continue to level up into different roles, be eventually, you know, maybe a manager, director, right? You know, I actually had a chance to be a director at Disney, but I ended up turning it down because I wanted to pursue more of the entrepreneurial startup type of role, and that's kind of why I'm here where I'm at right now at InStride. But I was able to establish this opportunity to be a director at Disney in product management because of the fact that I was always very, very good at talking about results and goals and KPIs, right? And having a measurement plan. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we launch products, we want to serve our audience, right? We connect with people, but if you're not able to show results to people, people don't know that that product was successful, right? You could have launched 100 products or features, but if you don't have a good sense of the results, or if you can't tie those results to the business objectives or to the mission of the company, it doesn't matter really, right? And so ultimately being able to, you know, provide results, for me, my framework has always been just, you know, identifying what is the top level objective or the company, and kind of go down incrementally from a strategy. Then from the strategy, you have your goals, and then from your goals, you have your KPIs, and then from the KPIs, you have your targets, right? So this is a nice little template you can use to you know, figure out what it is that you're trying to solve for. Like, what is it that's going to help you to know the score, right? Kind of going to my soccer days. Like, if you're trying to keep score, right, and everyone's going to look at the scoreboard, what should they be looking at? And it's super important to have an idea, or everyone to know what the score is, because they're all going to strive and work towards that, right? So that's, you know, again, really, really important in when trying to, you know, leave an impact and kind of level yourself up. And then finally, this is for those who, you know, are looking to potentially be a founder of their own company, or wanting to go down the entrepreneurial path. I believe that PMs, product managers, are the best suited to found and start companies, because they develop this skill of, you know, communicating with various stakeholders, various people. They're really good at understanding people's problems, right? They know, and they can transmute people's problems to different people. Because at the end of the day, you know, entrepreneurs and founders, all they're doing is they're creating something to serve a lot of people, and it's on their own terms, right? And when you're able to take the product skills and then continue to come out as, you know, as a person who's trying to serve, you will, you'll find that it works. And you're probably hearing my dogs. I apologize. They're really active right now, which is fine. One thing that I like to share as well is you know, if you are looking, and this is actually still good, as even if you're a PM, it could also help with your initial strategy. I have 2 companies right now. I'm working on my third as a, you know, on the side. This one in particular is called Fetch the Moment. It was my first little side project that I then converted into a company, and now it's, you know, actually generating some income for me. But I ultimately came up with this founder's memo, and it's a great way to, you know, showcase to anyone, really, right? It's almost like a pitch, or it's really just a, you know, again, a founder's memo to articulate, you know, everything about that product or that company or whatever, that you can then use to, you know, help onboard a teammate or developers or designers. It just concentrates the focus on really what it is that you as a founder had in mind for that product, right? You can kind of see here, you know, it goes into certain questions. Basically, it answers questions, right? Because at the end of the day, people always have questions, and so how are you going to answer them, right? So I created this little founder's memo, and you can see here, you know, this is the actual Fetch the Moment site. Right now, it's just kind of like a small blog that is working as an affiliate marketing, generating income off of commissions from the Amazon affiliate marketing program. But ultimately, you know, for this is geared towards dog lovers who really love, you know, either enjoying moments with their pets or their specifically dogs, and traveling with them. And I'm working right now with, you know, another PM to develop more of a curated list of products based off of your profile and your dog's profile, right? So let's say you have a dachshund, and let's say we know, because you've created your account, that you love, you know, fitness, and you have a dachshund. So maybe we'll recommend, you know, products specific to you as a person who's in fitness, and specifically, you know, products that are really highly favored for dachshund owners, right? Because the problem that we're trying to solve is that really, you know, I don't know if you guys have pets or dogs or anything, but there's just so many products out there, and you're always trying to find the one product for your breed, and you know, it's sometimes kind of hard to get all that. But if you get, you know, a community of people who also have either tried a product, or, you know, have experience with it, you become a little bit more, you know, you want to actually use it, because you can see other people and other pets with that actual product, right? So that's kind of the purpose, and kind of how I'm framing that one. So if you have a pet and you have a dog specifically, you know, feel free to check it out. Okay, cool. So that's really, I mean, that's what I wanted to share, because I think hopefully it covered the different areas and where you want to eventually go or be, or where you are. And, you know, like I said, I am here. I want to answer a couple, if you have any specific questions about, you know, again, my journey and where I am, or how I can continue to help you, you know, feel free to ask. I'll stop sharing. So we'll start with just maybe just any specific questions, or anything, any feedback really, because that's really what I'm trying to, you know, understand here is, was this helpful? Anything in particular that you found and you're like, you know what, I'm going to try that. I like that. I'm going to take away something from that. Should we get started? I mean,
So, Rich, yeah, I mean, this is JP. Thanks for sharing. I mean, really, uh, really appreciate you sharing this information. I mean, uh, it's hard for someone who's either aspiring or who's already there to, you know, get someone to share this kind of information. It's very difficult. So really thankful for that. It is great stuff that you presented. I mean, like bunch of them. So I've been actively networking for a while now, and a lot of folks came out to, you know, with their insights about how to go about and strategize. Of all the interactions I've had so far, I think this is probably the best I've come across. I mean,
nice.
there's a lot of common themes that, you know, people would come across. You know, I mean, I generally value people's time, so I tend to ask for like 30 minutes, like I did with you. And you know, within 30 minutes, they kind of get to know that, hey, you know, it's probably this guy's trying to get his foot in the door. So they would just throw the common themes, like they would like, why don't you take up a course, why don't you do a side hustle, why don't you do this? And I was like, okay, I mean, all that sounds great. So after like 4, 5, 6 calls, I was like, well, this is not going anywhere. So I
Yeah.
stopped having those kind of information.
Yeah.
And, you know, I stopped that kind of networking things, and I wanted to be very specific. I wanted something that is more actionable and meaningful.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of them. I would definitely want to know if you are in for a, you know, I mean, I don't know if you have the bandwidth to probably for mentorship or maybe coaching in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's easy for uh, to, you know, to go through these resources and be good about it, but I think to actually put these things into action and see results would take mentorship. So
Yep.
and you know, and everybody at some point needs a mentor. As you keep growing up, you know, your mentors change, but I think yeah, I mean, that's another question I had in mind.
So great question. I'm going to share my screen one more time, because that's perfect segue. I do, and I actually am mentoring a few folks and coaching a few folks. So this is one of the other companies that I'm kind of running on the side as well. And I actually find myself spending a little bit more time on this than the Fetch the Moment right now, because of how much fulfillment it actually gives me, right? Being here with you guys, I actually find it really enjoyable, because, you know, again, I was in your shoes, and I know exactly what you're feeling, and I remember that feeling, and I don't want, you know, I want more people to, you know, be able to get to that next level faster, right? And so, you know, I have put together, you know, a weekly call, actually, like a weekly group mentorship call series that I'll send you the link, where I actually try to structure in a way where, yeah, I'm almost like your accountability partner, right? I'm like, if you think about it, you know, athletes, they have trainers or coaches, right? You know, dance, they're the same way. You know, you have all these people that are helping you. I kind of want to do the same for PMs, and not only just focus on the PM part, but also the personal development part, right? 'Cause as you kind of heard from the beginning, the mindset is really what really limits us. And I think that's one of the things that I have never really seen in mentorship, at least for career specific ones, a person who's been able to address both the mindset part and the actual career part, right? Kind of mixing the two. And so that's what I'm actually offering. So I have this program. It's basically, like I said, yeah, it's a weekly thing. You can choose this one, which is right now I have 16 people. You can actually see here, we have this little Slack group that I constantly, we meet every Saturday. We review a topic, and I share some of my notes and kind of some action steps. So it's a little bit of a community, right? Kind of hold you guys accountable to do something. But I also have another, a more a one-on-one type of experience, if that's something you're interested in, where it's like, actually coaching you specifically, right? And I do offer this as like a kind of like a payment, payment plan type of thing. But this one is specifically like, I work with you, identify like an actual tailored plan. And I work with I use Trello, by the way. I'm not sure if you guys use Trello at all, but I'm a huge Trello person. And I try to give you like a roadmap or a checklist, and we kind of work together where I walk you through these things, right? You're essentially, I'm holding you accountable to certain things. And at the end of it, the goal and the idea is that you have a job, or you have me as your mentor constantly, that we can always just, grow together, right? That's really where I'm trying to go with that. So if that's something you're interested in as well, JP, I can send you the link and you can take a look at it, take some time to think about it. But I do offer that. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's, I think, where I want to end up being anyways.
Well, understood.
Cool. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you so much, Rich, that you share a very helpful framework and all the actionable plans and tips. And I want to ask that, are there any challenges that you find junior product manager might face when they first start their career as PM, especially for someone with no technical background? And yeah, and another related question is that, have you observed any advantages for people from marketing background that they can leverage into their PM roles? Thank you.
So with technical, I always think that when you have a technical background, you do have a little bit of an advantage in that, you're working primarily with developers, right? They're the ones who, especially in tech, right? They're the ones who are going to build this vision that you have, right? And if you are able to gain the respect because you know a little bit about technology, that's helpful, right? So for me, obviously, I come from IT, so I know technology. I know, in a way, the how things work, and I've actually learned a lot of other things from my own curiosity, right? But I wouldn't call myself an expert in tech, right? In the sense that I don't know all the newest trends in technology, right? I know to a certain degree, some of them, but not like the specific like Next.js 2.0, release that has all this new stuff. I let the developers teach me, right? I ask them, right? So that's just one thing to know. I think really what you need to develop as a PM is, again, understanding that level of relationship and how to work with them, right? How to work with developers, how to work and gain that respect. And that comes, again, it comes with being able to, be curious, share something new, things like that. So it's specifically to your, what is it called? Your background in digital marketing. I actually think that that does help a lot, right? Because, digital marketing, in my mind, again, it's if you look at the process, right? Digital marketing is kind of like the end of the product development process, right? Where you have the product and now it's time to market it, right? And you're going to use all your channels and you're going to launch it. So it's helpful, really, really helpful, right? But I would say my advice is being able to go from idea to user testing to, maybe even a little launch of your own, maybe build a little product of your own. that will give you more of that well-rounded balance that you will need, right? So I wouldn't say, honestly, you know, depending on where you want to work, everyone is looking for certain things, certain skills. I can say that when I was, you know, I developed a lot of digital marketing skills when I was at the digital agency. I had to do SEO, I had to do, you know, PPC, I had to do all these new things that I didn't know before because like there was no one else to do it, right? So I learned it. But if you're going to work at a big company, there's teams that are focused on doing that, right? And so, you know, you knowing it is going to help you communicate with them really well, but that's not your job. Your role as the PM is to be, again, the person with the vision, the person that's it's sharing that vision, it's bringing people as awareness to that problem, that vision, and getting people to all believe in what you're ultimately working towards, right? That's why I say communicating, storytelling, like those are the things that we don't focus on enough that will make you stand out no matter who you, I mean, think about it, right? Like I think of like, you know, some of the great founders and you know, really CEOs and product creators, they're really good at sharing a story, right? And really getting you to believe that this is why we need to do it, right? And that's a skill. That takes time. That's where I want you guys to maybe focus on a little bit is, you know, and I learned by being at Disney, storytelling is key. And if you can get people to feel a certain way, right? And you know, everyone has a story. We all have a book in us, right? Your story is so unique. It's your story. And if you're able to share it in a way that people connect with, you will find that, you know, people will listen, right? Because we are naturally interested in people's stories.
I have a quick question as well.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about like bringing value and of course like sharing your stories and making connections. What are your thoughts on, I guess, like cold emailing or kind of just reaching out to people you don't know, if whether you want to either like ask for, I don't know, mentorship, internship, or a career opportunity, or how you can bring your value to that person's company or to their life? Like, do you think it's effective, or like is there one way that's better over another to do it? And because I think like the main roadblock that I'm running into is like, how can I be both concise and detailed but not take up someone's like time too much or seem like because I'm intruding their space? I don't know.
Right. Well, no, it's good. It's a good question. And I will say that, you know, being able to cold email someone is a little, it could work, right?
I mean, it's a gamble either way, but
yeah. And honestly, like if you have nothing to lose, then you have nothing to lose, right? I always try to find effective, very high probability ways of connecting with people, and that's usually looking at my own network and trying to get that referral, right? Or connecting with people that you know. So now I'm a connection. Like we've established a connection now, right? And so if you want to meet someone or you want to work at somewhere, you let me know, right? And maybe I'll look at my network of people and I say, hey, you know, I know Teodora, right? And she's really interested in doing this thing. You know, now I'm the credible person. And so, you know, I don't like, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people don't like it when the reputation is tarnished. So in a way, you know, I will definitely want to talk to you to say, okay, well, what kind of value can you bring to them that I know will actually, you know, help them, right? And that's where, again, mentorship can help, and me guiding you can also help, because, you know, emailing for the sake of emailing, like, I personally, you know, if there's no exchange of value, I don't find it effective at all, right? I get tons of email from people. They're like, I saw that you are here and I would love to talk to you, right? Like, you know, like, can you at least give me something that we can do a give and take, right?
So really establish that value in order to connect.
Yeah. I think personally, I mean, I think that's hopefully the way that I connected with you guys. I mean, I mean, yes, I'm in product management and you guys probably wanted to talk to me, but ultimately you could have said no to me, right? I knew that 100%, but I wanted to give you something of value, right? So I said, hey, let me share this with you as something that I want to connect on. And if you find it helpful, then maybe you want to keep going and working with me, right? Now, I have like a mentorship program, or if you want to just keep working with me, then now you know. But ultimately that's what I was doing, right? And you can do the same thing, right? Knowing your network, how do you connect with people, but you also have to think about the other person, right? Can't just be give me, give me, give me. It should be give and take.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And last, sort of like a tangent, are you open to sharing the recording with all of us afterwards?
Yes. I will definitely share the recording. I will share the links that I shared in the presentations, so you guys have it as well. And I highly recommend you try them out, right? I mean, at least look at them, right? The links, because it is a way for you to give you that actionable step, right? And that's kind of what I like. JP, to your point, like I don't like talking to people if they're not going to give me something that I can actually use or take action on, right? And that's really why I created these little templates. So I want you guys to take something and hopefully use it and find results, right?
Hi, Rich, do you still have a few minutes for another question?
I can stick around.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This resonates with me a lot. I love reflecting on my past, my stories. And I actually asked a question about professional relationships and personal relationships because sometimes I found it hard to let the other person share their stories. Like because I feel I have a lot of great life stories and I wrote about them in my personal blog. But sometimes I don't know whether it's appropriate to share them in a professional context. Like I try to connect with my manager at a deeper level, but I try to share some of my life, but he wouldn't share his.
I see.
So I don't know whether it's like he doesn't want to establish a more personal relationship where I'm doing too much or whatever. So do you have any?
Well, I find that it is a little bit of being curious. Like I whenever I go into someone's room, like a office or in an interview, I'm very observant. I always try to look, as you kind of saw from Theodora, right? I saw that Frozen poster and I instantly said, oh, okay, I have something of my, past that I can maybe ask a question. So just being observant, looking around, you can pick up little things and just ask, right? Like, oh, I saw that you went to so-and-so place. Like, how was it? Right? Like just being curious. And then you find that sometimes people tend to open up a little bit and you're not looking for their whole life story, right? But you just want to, ask. It's never harms to ask. And if they say they don't want to talk about it, then that's when that's where the line is, right? It's fine. And you kind of say, okay, I'll carry on, right? But being observant, and, knowing that there's a lot of people. So if your manager doesn't want to open up, that's fine. Why don't you maybe try to connect with other people that you can establish that connection with, right? Again, when you work at a company, the best thing you can do is to network and to meet people, because you never know how those people will ever connect with you, or in the future will need you, right? Like I've gotten opportunities from just my own network, right? People reaching out to me, right? I get referrals. I get people, who are at these tech companies. They're always asking, like, do I want to work there? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to, I'm good. I'm good right now where I am. So, that's just the power of networking, the power of getting to know people and being very personable. Cool. Any other questions? So I really appreciate the feedback. If you do have any other, I'm gonna try to send something like a little feedback thing, because I want to also just continue to advance and learn my own presentation skills. I'm never one to believe that I'm 100% a master at anything. I always believe you want to continually improve and get better. I always try to have this child mindset that I'm always learning, right? I don't, even if I know it, know it well, I want to keep learning. So if you have any feedback, I'm going to ask that if you can share that with me, that'd be helpful. I will send the link, and I included the link to the mentorship site as well for a product fit. That's, again, the company that I'm running right now. I have a group of mentors there, or mentees, and if you guys want coaching or mentorship, that's one way of doing it. Otherwise, I mean, I'm going to try to most likely I'm going to assess really these group sessions and see, can I do this, on the side as well with the actual group mentorship that I'm doing. Maybe I'll space them out, but ultimately, now we have a connection on LinkedIn. So, if you want 100% more direct access, I think the best is the actual program itself, right? Oh, and I want to mention, so because you guys joined today, if you are interested, I know it says $130 a month for the subscription, but I will offer it to you guys as a discount for $89 a month. Just as a way to kind of, again, show that you guys are here, you're invested, and that price right now is $130 as a way to, I want to, be, competitive against other mentorship programs. I saw a couple others that are in that price range, but for you guys, because you're here, I can offer you a discount code, and if you're interested in that, I'll give it to you for $89 a month, and you can choose to cancel whenever you want. My hope is that we'll stay connected and we'll continue the relationship even beyond when you get a job or wherever. But ultimately, that's what I'm all about.
Actually, can I ask another question?
Sure, yeah.
That actually stimulated my curiosity. So I see you have these two side projects. I'm wondering what is a good thing to bring up with your maybe your current coworkers, or when you are looking for a job, would you share that you have these side projects? Because sometimes I worry about the employer thinks you can't, like, you're not devoting all your time to your full-time job.
Yeah, I know. And it is a mindset shift, right? Because, I know where you're coming from.
Because I also have a passion project.
Right. And honestly, I think it's fine to share, because think about this, right? If the company really values you as an employee, right, and you find joy and happiness from doing this, then that's something that they should, give you the space to do, right? I mean, you have weekends, you have a life, right? You probably, like to go to the beach or go do other stuff, right? So why couldn't you just do a side project as well, right? And that's what I always say. Ultimately, if you enjoy it and you like talking about it, then feel free to share it, right?
That's good to know. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, I will end this recording.